Hang on to your capes, people. You're about to join Super Geeks.
Alright. Alright. My name is George. Chooch99A is my Twitter. And today we are going to be, just to give you guys a disclaimer, we're going to be talking a few subjects, but we're also going to be reviewing the new movie Star Trek Beyond. So when we get to that part of the show, if you haven't already seen it, then I don't know what's wrong with you. But if you haven't, it is going to be spoiler heavy, so
some people are waiting, like me, for Sunday.
And some people are going to.
I felt that's a criticism
by the fact that they're in the show, like Will.
I'll just leave by that point. So,
if you purposely wait 3 weeks just to watch a movie, that's on you.
Yeah, but I can leave. So
that's true, but you don't need to.
Well, if you don't like the crowds of opening weekend or the first couple weeks,
exactly
that works for you.
That's exactly it.
If you're antisocial.
That's me.
Wow.
I went on opening day at 10 in the morning, and everyone was at work. So there's only 10 people in the theater.
I went.
Yeah, but you are not working at the moment, so
you know it's a
yeah.
I went for a marathon showing of all 3 of the new movies with my girlfriend.
Well, before we get into that, first of all, like I said, I'm George. Chooch99A is my Twitter. Anthony, where can people find you?
You can follow me on Twitter at Anthony Battles.
All right. And Will?
On Twitter at Intrinsicus. That's Intrinsic with the US.
And Ross?
You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and on the World Wide Web. www.iliveloveplay.com. Super Geeks is a Live Love Play podcast produced in association with Busy Little Beaver Productions. And next week, you will find me in Las Vegas for the 50th anniversary Star Trek convention.
Yeah, I was thinking of seeing if we can figure out
don't get sick while you're there, because everyone tends to get sick after the convention because they're constantly breathing into each other's mouths.
Yeah, the convention crud, as they call it. I've gotten it when I went to a convention years ago.
I was fortunate enough to avoid it the last couple cons I've been to.
Have you got your skort ready? Is that what you're going to be wearing?
The scant? No,
the scant.
I do not have a scant to sport this time.
Oh, come on! You can pretend you're one of the female. What's-its walking around?
The what's-its?
Well, I don't know what they're called.
Cosplay is not consent.
Wow. Yeah. I don't know how to react to that one. Conventions are interesting. Yep, I haven't been to the Star Trek one in Las Vegas, although I keep meaning to every year, but just something always falls through. It sucks. But yeah, if you're going to be there, Ross, maybe we can have some kind of recorded report that you send that we'll play on the air.
Sure, I can do that.
We'll figure something out. It'd be such a nice relief to have you gone. I mean,
I was gone 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I know. It was nice. Anyways, I'm just kidding. But
yeah, because I keep telling you get back on subject.
Ross, like you said, we're Live Love Play is our production company, and Busy Little Beavers we're associated with them. But you can hear Super Geeks on Subspace Radio, usually on Thursdays in the afternoon. You can check their schedule for your local time. All right. So this week we are going to start off. We're going to be talking about Beyond, but first we're going to try to squeeze in some subjects that have been all over the place, which is the San Diego Comic-Con news. And there was so much to take in. It was pretty impressive. The biggest takeaway from the Comic-Con that I want to start with is the drop of the Wonder Woman trailer. And I just was blown away by this trailer. I was not expecting it. I mean, I thought it would be good, but I didn't expect it to be this good. And any other people have any thoughts on the trailer?
It's good. I mean, I don't, because of all of these things that have come out before with all of the other stuff that's come out before. You got the Superman last year. I just don't take these trailers to be okay. Nice. You show me a little bit of the movie. It's nice action. I'm not going to be blown away until I actually see the movie.
Yeah, these trailers are sort of like an appetizer. and you taste it, and you're like, okay, let me try some more, and that's where you go watch the movie. So the trailer looked good. You can make anything in a minute and 26 seconds look good, right?
Yeah.
But
unless you're the Ghostbusters person.
I was
yeah. But I'm hoping that there is strong writing, a cohesive story, something that looks good and tells the story of Princess Diana and how she's introduced to the world during World War II.
Yep.
World War One.
Yeah,
is it one or two?
One. It's one.
It's World War One.
Originally World War II in the comics. They changed it to World War One because they didn't want it to be compared to Captain America.
And even so, I like that they're setting her in such a different era.
Yeah.
I mean, World War II is very romanticized,
Right.
as
Right.
odd as that sounds, as far as what they were fighting for.
And
World War
she's
One
the
is a very
daughter
rarely
of Zeus,
touched on.
right?
It's a rarely touched on subject. Arguably, it would be even harder for a woman to get acclimated.
Actually, Anthony, what you just said brings up a good point. See, in the original comics, all the way up until the New 52, Wonder Woman was made. What happened was the gods told her mother, Hippolyta, whatever way you pronounce it, to make a child out of clay from the beach water. The sand clay, the water and the sand. So that she molded a child, and then the gods gave her life. Now, up until that point, that was her origin. And what they changed in New 52 was Zeus basically had sex with Hippolyta and impregnated her, and Wonder Woman was literally the daughter of Zeus.
So Zeus and Hercules are half brother and sister.
You mean her and Hercules? Yeah.
Zeus. Wonder Woman, Diana,
yes, Hercules,
and Hercules are half brother and sister.
In George Perez's era of Wonder Woman, in the 80s, which is when she made her most popular comeback. It's funny you mention Hercules. He actually raped her mother, and everybody thought that she was Hercules' daughter. And then it turned out that wasn't the case. Because Hercules raped her mom and took over the Amazons, and then they broke from their bonds and escaped his oppression, and then they found Paradise Island. That was in the George Perez, the last version before New 52, the origin story. And then later on, like, Hercules got redeemed, and he made up for it, and him and Wonder Woman and everybody made friends. But
so Hercules raped Diana's mom,
in the George
his
Perez
half
story,
sister.
Well, she wasn't Zeus's daughter back then. In New 52, she became Zeus's daughter. That was a new thing. But what's implied by this trailer, what I was going to say was, they seem to be mixing the two stories together, because if she says she was brought to life by Zeus, what that implies to me, and we'll find out when the movie comes out, is, maybe, if they explain it, is that her mom still did the clay thing, but it was Zeus who put life into the clay model.
So if Zeus put life into the clay model, Zeus is her father. So
right. It's a different way of
yeah.
mixing the two origins. Either way, she's Zeus's kid.
I'm pretty sure Zeus had sex with her. He was pretty prolific. So
yeah.
We'll see.
But it does sound like they're trying to pay homage to both versions of her origin story that are popular, and I think that's cool. I am loving Chris Pine as Steve Trevor from the chemistry that you have in the trailers. I love that opening shot with the beach where she finds him washed up, and it's the first man she's ever seen. Goes all the way back to the 40s, and even the Linda Carter Wonder Woman TV show. That's how it all started. And so I love that. That's that one part where she finds Steve on the shores of Themyscira is actually the most iconic Wonder Woman origin story that goes. It's sort of relatable to when Jor-El puts baby Kal-El in the rocket and sends him off to Earth from Krypton. It's kind of the same idea. That's how it all started, kind of thing. And I really like where they're going with this, and I like the idea of basically them changing it to World War One, in my opinion, because World War One is a different type of a war. It was the trench war. They had the gritty, they used a lot of gas warfare. I don't know if we'll see any of that.
And beyond the warfare part of it, it's a different environment. World War II, even if you're not looking at it on a romantic level, it was very polarizing. Nazi Germany was very clearly evil.
That's a good point.
I mean, there's no way to get around that. But World War I, it was much more nebulous. There was no true bad guy. It was a war of circumstance and alliance.
When they were fighting that war, they didn't know what the Nazis were doing to the Jews. I mean, No, again, but I'm talking about World War II now, because he said it was clearly defined at the.
They
at the
absolutely knew what they were doing to the Jews.
Not at the beginning. They didn't.
No, that's true. They didn't.
They did not.
As the war was fought, the
Yes,
information came out. Yes,
right. But right at the
Hitler made those
beginning,
speeches, though, Will,
once the
about-
war, once
about-
once he's invading Poland and so forth, and he's invading Russia, they didn't know at that point.
No, that's
They
true.
did,
But Hitler
so
was
the
making
Germans
some-
were just Germans, just like the Huns from World War One, basically. But they were much more advanced and technically, and tactically more brilliant than the previous Germans were, because they ran over everybody.
I think I know another reason they picked World War One too is there was an interview with Patty Jenkins and the director, and one of the things that she was saying was different about Wonder Woman from other stories that take place during a war is Wonder Woman's job when she comes to McMahon's world, as they call it, is not to come here and kill people. It's her job is to show love and compassion even among people that have wronged you. That you forgive them, that you give them a chance to be better people. You don't just go and kill them. She's trying. I mean, if that's true from the message they're saying, that she's going to come over with Steve, and she's not just going to go there, I'm going to help you win the war. That's not her job. Her job is to be an ambassador of peace and love and compassion. She's going to that's probably where that dance scene, or not dance scene, the ball where she's wearing the dress. She's got the sword ready, obviously. She probably is trying to be a diplomat to the Germans to try to get them to stop fighting. But if they don't listen,
hell of a place to put a sword, by the way.
Right, exactly. But if they don't,
That's
listen,
the only place you could put the sword.
Yeah, well, I can think of a couple other places, but
it kind of fits in with the dress because it kind of looked like it was attached. But I mean, yeah.
It looked
Yeah,
like
very
it could be
clever.
a big ornament, yeah.
And World War One's a good setting for that mission because it would immediately tie in with her lost in faith that would set her on a path to just wandering the world.
What somebody pointed out, you're right, that one of her last lines on Batman v Superman was that 100 years ago she gave up on us, on humanity, because of there was just too much to take in, so that she couldn't fix it. She went back to Themyscira, or did something. She went away. She gave up.
She wandered the world.
Did she say wander? Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you guys something.
Good.
The most lethal weapon that Wonder Woman uses is not the sword, not the shield, not her bracelets that could deflect bullets or whatever. It's that lasso of truth. Isn't that like a woman always wanting the truth from a man? And she gonna put that lasso around you and ask you questions.
Save those comments for 602.
No,
That's not a
no.
602 comment. This is
relevant.
one of her tools that she uses
Yeah.
in her fight, for
Yeah,
justice.
that's-
Okay.
Is there any male superhero that does something similar?
No.
Ghost Rider, the penitent stare.
I'll be honest with you. When they first created Wonder Woman, the guy, it was a guy that created Wonder Woman, and his motivations for making her were not as
No,
romantic
he was
or
into
bondage and BDSM.
Yeah, BDSM. Yeah.
He meant her to be like the true Amazon lesbian that they logically would be if you were in an island of all women and all that good stuff. Lesbos, that was the real life island story. The stories about how the origin of that word. When it's like being in prison. It's like you don't have a lot of options of who to have sex with, so that's why they did what they had to do. But yeah, the lariat or lasso, same thing. I love how it glows in these images. That's one of the other things that I from the trailer that impressed a lot of people was every time she actually uses it, it doesn't glow when it's just sitting on her belt, but when she uses it, it glows, and that was pretty authentic to the comics. To me, it looked a little forced on the CGI when the lariat glows, but I don't know. Everybody else seems to love it. What do you guys think of that?
I'm sure they'll clean it up.
What?
Again, if they'll get the, you're talking about that lasso thing in the middle of the I don't know. I mean, that, like I say, you're looking at something, a snippet of the film, and
Right.
I don't take anything from these snippets, these little things, because I want to see the film. I mean, they're cherry picking things that they may want me to see.
What's funny is this brings up the subject of ever since Ghostbusters came out, it brings up a subject that's become recently big, and it has to do with trailers. In the past, the job of a trailer was to make you want to see the movie. So it was almost an art in its own form. That whoever makes a good trailer, how they make the trailer is going to either sell or not sell the movie. And sometimes people make bad trailers and the movie turns out to be awesome. And other times people make great trailers, and this is often more the case, and the movie sucks.
Like comedy trailers that shove all the good jokes into the trailer.
Or anything, yeah, exactly. Independence Day, for example, Resurgence, I hear nothing but bad things about it, and the trailer looked awesome. But Ghostbusters, the trailer looked horrible, and I liked it, and a lot of other people did.
Well, and that's why I said earlier, I hope that there's a cohesive story, there's something that we could get into, and that the trailer is more than just the appetizer. I hope that...
On the subject of trailers... kind of off topic, but I recently saw a trailer for the movie called The Accountant. Doesn't sound too interesting just on the title, but watching the trailer, it's got me fairly interested in it. It's a Ben Affleck movie.
Okay. It's okay to talk about that. I mean, in general, the topic of trailers has changed because of the fact of what happened with Ghostbusters. They did a horrible job marketing that movie with the trailers, and from what I heard, they may have even let the guy go that used to do the trailers for Sony. Or at least be in charge of the final decision.
We talked about that last week,
right? But the subject demands that I bring it back up real quick because not everybody is listening. And so all I'm saying is that this is an example where, the Wonder Woman trailer looks awesome, and also the next trailer we're going to talk about is Justice League, because they also dropped the Justice League trailer. Now everybody's been waiting for. It
wasn't really a trailer. It was
true.
It was more just a collection of footage to say, hey, look what we're working on.
Well, they're calling it a trailer, but other people don't agree that it's really a trailer. It's like a...
The guys at the panel did not call it a trailer.
Oh, they didn't? Okay. Yeah, it kind of felt like a trailer, but yet it wasn't a trailer.
It was on YouTube, it's a trailer. Was it on Movie Trailer's channel?
I know what you're saying. Officially,
I
it
use
wasn't a trailer,
YouTube.
but I do look at it like a trailer because it doesn't matter what they say in words. They can say officially it wasn't a trailer. It felt like a trailer. They're presenting it the same way you would with a trailer to try to get you interested in that movie. And it wasn't a vignette like with Rogue One. It was put together the way you would a trailer. It just was more early form, I guess you might say. What did you guys think of the Justice League one?
I liked it. It was a nice way to kind of introduce the new actors portraying these known and beloved characters. And I gotta say, Ben Affleck doesn't look too bad with a beard.
That was interesting how they had him, as far as time jump, as far as how long he's been out there looking for Aquaman, trying to blend in with the locals. What I'm interested in hearing...
Well, he did have to wait for the King Tide.
Yeah, that's true. What I'm curious about is, and there's been a lot of different reactions online, is some people are feeling like torn because the Barry Allen Flash for this, from the one we're getting on TV with Grant Gustin, and the costume especially, and people are feeling like mixed about how they like. If only he was Barry Allen from the TV show like that. But this guy's so totally different. They don't know how to. They wish he had been the Wally West or something different. I don't know. I liked the chemistry and the way they made Ezra Miller act as Barry Allen, and the effects of him doing his super speed I thought were pretty interesting. But I have to admit, I'm in that camp that goes, oh man, if they had to have the Flash, why did they have to have it be Barry Allen when they got him on TV at the same time? They could do a different version. There's so many different versions of the Flash. Why did they have to pick the same guy? I don't know. How do you guys feel about that?
I didn't like his suit.
I didn't like the suit that much either, to be honest with you.
It's too clunky. I was like, this guy is speedy, right? It's supposed to be streamlined. It's supposed to be hugging his body. That's what I think for the Flash, because you don't want anything extraneous sticking out when you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. It's armored, so.
It's armored. I mean, it's not supposed to be that. You don't need armor because you can just
avoid getting hit, not
right.
worry about when you get hit.
But hasn't the Flash been armored in the comics before?
He looks too much like Injustice Flash. That's my thing. That's not the Flash. That's not the proper Flash, in my opinion.
But what about the comics? Has he been armored in the comics?
No.
Never?
Not. I mean, maybe, but not traditionally. I don't recall him being armored. It's possible, but it just doesn't feel like the starting Flash costume you should have.
Why would you armor somebody that can move faster than a speeding bullet?
Restrict him if you think about it. Unless they do some exposition, like Bruce Wayne explains, this will allow you to do this with friction or something like that. If they explain it in the movie, But right now, from this early glance, to me, it looks like they're just trying to make him look like cool and different from the one on TV.
I think
that would be an ideal thing. You don't want him to look exactly like the guy from TV.
Well, they're already going for the fact that he's Barry Allen in The Flash. I mean, why not go all the way? Who cares?
The producers, apparently.
Good point.
So you call him Barry Allen, even though you got a Barry Allen TV.
Well, that's.
But then you say, well, we don't want him to look like Barry Allen from the TV, so we'll look something different.
I actually like the interaction between
I loved it.
Bruce Wayne and Barry Allen when he threw the
I need
batarang.
friends.
Don't get me wrong. The acting is great. I love their interaction.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I just don't like the way that they suited him up.
Personality-wise, he was fine, and like you said,
It was Bruce Wayne that created the suit.
We don't know that because he was looking at a suit in the. I actually watched the trailer again. The suit's actually on.
I don't know. It sort of reminds me of when Iron Man went to Spider-Man and gave him a suit.
You might be right because we only saw the arms. Because when he walks into that room that Bruce Wayne's sitting on, you can see like the arm of the Flash costume hanging off of something, but you don't see the whole suit. You're right. Bruce Wayne could have modified it for the team. That's a good point.
Or Cyborg.
Or Cyborg might have done it. That's a good point too. But Cyborg is not really. Cyborg's character in this is they show him walking around without any cybernetics on him, unless it's a flashback to before that happened, like he's telling a story. But then they show him like all cyborged out because in the Batman v Superman, the mother box from Darkseid is what causes him to merge with him to become Cyborg. That's.
Is anyone not going to mention that Aquaman is the Dothraki king from Game of Thrones?
Oh yeah, everybody knows that, and he looks awesome.
I don't know that because I don't watch Game of Thrones.
Yeah, no, this dude is awesome.
Jason
I like him a lot.
He's
Yeah.
Khal Drogo.
I just remember him from Stargate.
He was also the latest Conan.
Yes,
Didn't see it.
I didn't see that, and I don't really care to. But he was Khal Drogo, and he looks like Khal Drogo in this. Kind of a mix between him and the guy from Atlantis, actually.
I forget the
You
character he
should
played
care.
on Stargate.
That's where I got the title for my damn channel.
Which one? From
For Live, Love, Play. It's a my take on what he tells the chick. I live, I love, I slay, I am content. Instead of slay, play.
I haven't seen that movie, so that's why I didn't get it. But okay.
The only complaint I have is I didn't see Superman in the Justice League trailer from
But
Comic-Con.
He's
Comic-Con.
dead!
Right, but
He comes back to life!
Yeah, but they're not going to.
Yeah, but they're not going to really let in the trailer.
Everybody knows that, but
You know he's coming back.
They're not going to throw it in your face in the trailer. Henry Cavill did show up for the panel, though. This is interesting at Comic-Con
Yeah.
because they know that everybody knows he's going to come back.
Well, everybody knows he's coming back. I mean, look
Right.
at the end of the movie, Batman v Superman.
But it does make sense that they wouldn't show that stuff in this movie in these clips because I have a feeling that when it happens, it's not going to happen until the end of the movie.
He's only going to come back in flashbacks.
Well,
Do you know that for sure?
No, I'm just speculating.
okay.
Yeah,
I was
he's read
gonna
the
say,
script.
He's going to come back. It's pretty easy to guess that it won't be till either near the end of the movie or the end of the movie where he comes in at the last minute to help against Steppenwolf or whoever. And Aquaman, oh my god. Aquaman, real quick before we change the subject, that's really our first good look at Aquaman, because we've already seen everybody else, and we've seen the Flash on TV, even though Ezra Miller is the new Flash, but we've seen the character on TV a lot. What we haven't seen is Aquaman, except for in the Smallville, and that wasn't really that great.
Right, yeah, he was a kid back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's part where he walks into the waves and they consume him. That was awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and one thing I like, he's not a clean-cut blonde-haired dude.
He looks the way he did in a certain era of the Aquaman comics, where also in Justice League Unlimited, where he had lost his hand and had to replace it with a harpoon hook. In this case, that hasn't happened, but he's got the beard and the long hair look that he had at one point.
But he's not blonde.
But he's not blonde, right? And I like that, the very end of that trailer, or I'm sorry, whatever you want to call it, teaser. And he says,
No, it's the official San Diego Comic-Con trailer.
And he says, "Arthur Curry, I heard you could talk to fish." That's a throwback to everybody that used to joke that, what good is Aquaman? He could talk to fish. Oh my god!
Right. I do love the fact that the Flash was like, "I need friends."
I like when he says, "Can I keep this about the batarang?" I would
Yeah.
if he gets to keep it.
He probably
says
will.
yes. Yeah, I'm betting he probably.
It's not like he has a shortage of batarangs.
In today's world, like with Captain Boomerang on the Flash, he probably 3D prints his batarangs. That'd be
I
my
3D
guess.
print mine.
Okay, you have batarangs?
A couple.
Okay. Well, that makes sense.
But they're plastic, so they can't stick to crap.
I do absolutely love the song, the dong dong dong, whatever that beat was that they were using throughout the trailer. A lot of people are also talking about how, and I'm not going to drag this out too long, but it's just something that was brought up a lot all over the internet, was Zack Snyder and his dark tone, and one of the complaints that everybody made about Batman v Superman was DC needs to follow Marvel's example and learn to lighten up, because the comic books being too serious is not fun. And this trailer shows, with all the humor in it, that they're listening to the fans. And that gives me hope that they can do some course correcting. And even though, Zack Snyder, he did what he did, he's still involved with this movie heavily, and Ben Affleck's helping him. They came down on him hard, but they do this shows that you can throw humor in. Even Batman himself can say humorous things, and it doesn't make the movie suck. You can have your cake and eat it too. You can have, like in the Marvel movies, you can have an ensemble cast. You throw in a few funny lines. It doesn't make it into a comedy. You lighten up, DC, and they're starting.
You can have your serious characters have a light moment,
Like
and it doesn't ruin them as serious characters.
Right, like when Cyborg says to Batman, I heard about you. I didn't think you were real." And he says, "I'm real when it's convenient." That's funny, but it doesn't take away his character at all. You know what I'm saying? So that should be interesting. I'm curious as to. Oh, and by the way, I have to mention, I love the chemistry between Diana and Bruce in that scene when she's like, "So he said he'd fight for us," and he's like, "More or less." She's like, more or more or less?" And he goes, "More or less." She goes, "He said no. He said no." That was funny. I like the way that they interact with each other.
And that's true to the original. Aquaman didn't sign up right away.
Well, not only that, but the way that Wonder Woman and Batman have always, and Superman, the three of them have always been the Trinity. Now, Superman didn't really get to know Wonder Woman that well in the last movie before he got his ass kicked and died. So he's going.
It is nice to see some interplay between Batman and Wonder Woman as Bruce and Diana.
Right. I actually wouldn't mind if they hook up in the movie or later on, because I think that there is precedence.
I think she sleeps with everyone.
No. She had kissed Aquaman once. There was a reason for it.
Yeah, she messed around with Aquaman.
She almost married him.
Let me ask you this. Has she tied everybody up with her lasso of truth?
Yeah, see, she's like, do you want me? And they're like, yes, so then she has
she wraps her
sex
little...
In Flashpoint Paradox, she and Aquaman were supposed to get married to tie Atlantis with Themyscira, and then somebody assassinates.
Other way around. He was already married, but he hooked up with Diana on the side. Wife got angry, confronted Diana.
No.
She killed the wife, and that's what started the war.
Not in Flashpoint Paradox.
Yes, in Flashpoint.
They were in their wedding day.
That was not their wedding day.
Fight.
I just watched that.
Money on the redhead. I got money on the redhead.
Well,
it would be interesting if Diana was the softening influence on Batman, where she convinces him to stop killing.
Often the case in the comics is that she was always the voice that calms him down. And he even said at one point, well, we'll get into that another time, but he always said, the reason he was so mad at her when she killed Maxwell Lord was because he looked at her as being perfect, and that when she did that, it blemished his view of her. Like, you're not perfect anymore.
But she came from an island of women who generally hate men.
Well, if you watch the trailer for Wonder Woman 2, she very obviously kills people. She's not afraid to do that. And that's true to the comics, too. In the Justice League, when she joins the Justice League, Batman says, rule number 1, no killing. And she, up to Max Lord, she never did. However...
she's a warrior.
Exactly. In World War I, though, even Captain America was going around shooting people. He wouldn't do that in the modern world. But during World War I, he knew this was a war, and you can't just beat them up.
Did everybody see the color of her costume?
Yes.
It's different from the one. See, they went back to almost the original coloration.
It was almost like a blend.
Right,
in
I like
this
that.
year.
That's what I didn't like her about her when she was in Batman Superman. It's like, well,
Well, they
okay,
expect she's going to have variations of her costume throughout all of the
right, but
franchise.
I was like, when you first introduce her, you should at least try to get
Her
the
boots
costumes.
are different, too.
Yeah, well,
They're
that's
more
fine. I mean,
That is nice to see that her costume in the Wonder Woman trailer is different from what you see in Batman vs Superman and Justice League.
I wish they had reversed it, though. Tell you the truth.
Well,
Because I thought if she's coming off the island, she would have been wearing that metallic stuff in World War One, and then in later years, she would have been wearing her traditional coloration of Wonder Woman gear.
you got to understand too, though, that they don't know on Themyscira. Now, in the comics, Themyscira is more advanced than we are in the Western world. The invisible plane, for example, the technology that makes the metal invisible, they have technology. They have computers. They have all that. They've been around. They've been on the island for thousands of years, and they've made all that stuff for themselves. But what they didn't know was they weren't watching man's world. They don't know what we have over here. They don't need guns. They didn't make guns, but they are advanced enough to do something.
No, wait a minute. How do they make computers? Are the island's not going to have all the resources to make
It does, actually.
big advanced machines?
They have advanced technology on Themyscira. It's always been in the comics. It's just that.
Where do they
make
get the
it-
resources from?
The island has pretty much every resource you could possibly.
It's an island. I mean, it's not like Australia Island. It's a small little island.
Some of it's probably a little mixture of magic with technology.
It's magic!
Yeah, it's techno magic.
Yeah, I like that. It's an excuse for everything.
Techno magic. Well, I mean, think
Well, of
about it. They
course.
are techno magical. But the thing too is that when she goes over to Man's World, she doesn't even know unless they show that Steve Trevor uses the gun. Oh wait, they do know what guns are. Remember, because in the contest, in the classic Wonder Woman story, when she puts on the mask to see who will go with him to Man's World, in both the Linda Carter show and in the comics and in the cartoon, she replaced somebody in the contest to see who would go with him, and they shoot bullets from a gun and do the deflection of the bracers or whatever. So I don't know if it was from his gun or someone else's, but they're aware of what guns are. But in this movie,
I'm reminded of a comic I saw, Superman and Wonder Woman being shot at by a bunch of robbers. He asked her, "Hey, you're invulnerable, so why are you blocking with your bracers?" Okay, watch. Bullet hits her boob and they start to jiggle. Suddenly all the bullets are hitting her boobs and they're jiggling. All right, carry on.
Yeah.
Did you see the battle on the island though?
That
It
looked
looked
awesome.
like British soldiers were fighting them.
No, those were Germans. It's just they weren't Nazis, like you said. They could have been Austrians because they were fighting with the Germans.
No, the costumes are not of Germans.
Right,
They're not
these
German
Austrians.
design.
They look. There are Germans in the movie, and I'm actually watching a trailer right now.
Could they be Austrian? 'Cause they were with Germany.
Yeah, it's hard to say because they show two separate armies.
Yeah,
I thought they looked kind of British because they had the brown
The first
uniforms.
group looked British, but she is definitely fighting the Germans.
I
Well,
think
in one
they
of the
could have been
one of
Austrian.
the
They could have been Austrian. Didn't they join?
But no, I mean when the women group, they're fighting men on the island.
No, I know, but he's talking about because when they're fighting on the island, some of the soldiers aren't wearing like German helmets; they're wearing like berets.
Then they could be fighting the French.
Well, yeah, but I think that it could.
Did the French wear berets back then? I
They
thought that
could
was
be
a more
Belgian,
Oh, yeah.
more
they
modern
could be
term.
Belgian, they could be Austrian. There's a lot of different factions that fought alongside the Germans in World War One. So I don't know.
No, it was the Germans and the Austrians.
I think it's Austrian. It sounds.
and the Italians, I believe, were also in
And
on it
remember
too.
when she goes
The
to that-
Italians were on the Allies' side in World War One.
Well, that's right. Yeah, they were. And then they
think it's
flipped
Austrian.
because they didn't like the outcome from the Versailles. Yeah.
And Mussolini took over.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, it looks Austrian to me. And also when she was in that when she's wearing the dress with the sword in her back and she's walking up to that guy, he looked like an Austrian, some kind of archduke or something.
No, he looked German to me.
Did he? It could be.
The uniform. A
Yeah,
bunch of medals on the left hand side.
All right, it could have been anybody in the audience.
Anyway, we're speculating. We don't know. So
Yeah, we're just speculating. All right, so that's all for the DC information, and then the last.
Sort of.
Well, we'll talk about that. The last bit of trailer drops. Oh no, it wasn't a trailer. I'm sorry. Announcements was that Brie Larson was brought on stage by Kevin Feige to announced as our Captain Marvel, which a lot of people suspected. The audience went nuts. They seem to be happy with that decision. I'm fine with it. What do you guys think?
Like I said, I don't really know her yet. I don't want to see what she's been in.
Yeah, I'm gonna need to see the movie to formulate an opinion on that.
I'm just glad we have an actress.
That's true. I'm gonna face. I think from what I heard,
Better than Ronda Rousey.
Definitely,
I
definitely.
had so many people get mad that it wasn't Ronda Rousey that most.
She can't act.
She can't. She proved that in Fast and Furious 7. I mean, she was like...
That wasn't an acting role, though. That was a fighting role.
It doesn't matter. She was so... She shouldn't have even opened her mouth. They should have made the character be mute. You know
The only thing I would look at is that dot under her eye. So that's the only thing I would look at if she was in the movie.
Yeah, okay. Unless they make up over it.
No, you can't make up over that. That thing is big.
CGI over it, then.
Oh, that'd be a waste of money. Yeah, I know. She looks like she'd make a good Captain Marvel, but any blonde can look like Captain Marvel. As long as they're good
They made Tom Hanks look Korean in Cloud Atlas. They can take out a dot.
They did? I never saw that movie.
It's actually a good movie.
Is it?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah,
Cloud
it
Atlas?
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're kidding me. That was... Oh, God, I couldn't stand that movie.
It's because you don't have...
Taste?
No,
Patience.
I wasn't going to say taste. I was going to say creativity or...
Bullshit.
What is that word?
That was just a jumble.
You have no imagination.
It was a mess.
You have no imagination.
It was an absolute mess.
So I take it you
thought it
don't
was a
like
good movie.
Tarantino movies either.
No, I like Tarantino movies.
It's
But
the same
that was
idea
not
as
no,
in
it was not.
Pulp Fiction.
That was no way. Because at least his flashbacks and so forth made frigging sense. They didn't in that movie.
They
Yeah,
did.
no-
You
was
watched
just
it
a
all the
bunch
way
of
through.
No
jumble.
creativity.
No, it was awful. Absolutely awful.
Oh, okay, so we agreed that everybody split on Cloud Atlas. Yeah, so Captain Marvel was one of those characters I personally preferred it when she was Miss Marvel, and it's only because I like that version of the character better. I didn't think it was necessary for them to go, take the fight with DC over there, Captain Marvel, and say, no, you got to call him Shazam now because we want her to be Captain Marvel. I mean, and they had a Captain Marvel before that. I don't know.
Well, it's a branding thing. You
Yeah,
don't
I
want
know.
DC to have your brand as part of their deal.
Well, but the two existed for like 40 years.
And that was before they became a movie studio.
Yeah, that's true. Good point. Yeah, no, but they did the Captain Marvel thing way before they even planned on doing the movies. This is back before 2008 with Iron Man.
They had plans at that point. They were filming at that point.
They just got tired of people getting confused. Like, is he Shazam? He says Shazam, but he's Captain Marvel, and then she's Miss Marvel, and then there's a Captain Marvel, and it got confusing.
I like the new Miss Marvel as well. Camilla Khan. She's a fun character.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I know who you're talking about. I just don't read all of them, but I'm not a huge Marvel fan. I like Marvel in certain titles, but DC is my thing. But yeah, no, I'm just glad they're. Supposedly, she's going to make her first appearance in Guardians of the Galaxy 2. That's a rumor, though. There's no confirmation on that, but I wouldn't be surprised because she is a what they call cosmic level character type that would fit in with that world. But I don't know if they're going to do her origin.
Well, she is part Kree.
Well, kind of. See, that's the whole thing. It depends on what version of her story they do, whether the Captain Marvel's part of her origin or not. I'm sure they'll find some way to incorporate him if they want to make the fans happy, but not necessarily as much as people hope. But we'll see. We have no idea. All right. So that was good news. All right, and then Ross, you saw The Killing Joke, and the big controversy that comes out of Comic-Con. This is not really a spoiler for those listening because it's all over the internet as an outrage thing. That doesn't mean everybody heard it, but heck with it. So in The Killing Joke, everybody's been looking forward to this adaptation of these.
Let me preface this a little bit.
Go ahead.
The Killing Joke as a story is short, and it's not enough to make a full feature-length production, which is what they wanted to do with this. So they filled in kind of a setup story around Supergirl, Batgirl, and Batman before the actual Killing Joke story begins.
Right, like 30 minutes worth, I heard.
Right, and people are pissed off because in it, Batgirl hooks up with Batman.
She doesn't just hook up. They flat out have sex on a roof.
That's what I said.
Hooking up doesn't necessarily mean that you have sex on a roof, though.
They had sex on a rooftop.
That's part of what caused a lot of the controversies, not just because they hooked up, but because of how they did it. Not worrying about cameras, taking off the masks, just taking off their clothes. Well, at least she did. I don't know about Batman.
What about Joker though?
He wasn't involved in that at that point.
He wasn't
No.
invited.
No.
He wasn't invited.
What he did to Batgirl.
Right. I was gonna
He
say-
did all that to Commissioner Gordon, not Batman.
No. He's talking about the clothes and the implied rape.
No, where he maimed her.
Oh, that.
He did that to affect Commissioner Gordon, not Batman. Joker doesn't know who Batman or Batgirl is.
Why wouldn't he know who Batgirl is if he's the one who tortured her?
Because she's Commissioner Gordon's daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah, but once he uncovers
And the
her
whole
past,
point
look
What
at her.
he did is, like, he paralyzes her, right?
Yeah.
And then he takes nude photos of her and, and shows it to Commissioner Gordon.
That scene was exactly done the way it was in the comics, and also it was in the old Bird of Prey TV show with Dina Myers, who played
The
Batgirl.
story of the Killing Joke is Joker escaping from Arkham Asylum and trying to drive Jim Gordon insane. To do this, first, he shoots Barbara Gordon in front of him, in the stomach, through the spine, paralyzing her. Then, he is seen undressing her, and it's implied that he rapes her and photographs the events. And then, as he's sending Gordon through his funhouse of insanity, he displays these pictures during a Broadway musical number.
They did that scene exactly the way it was in the graphic novel, almost perfect. I don't want to say perfectly. It's true to the story. What's causing the outrage with the fans, though, is that they took that extra 30 minutes in the beginning to give people a reason to care about what happens to her, because they want to get you to see more Batgirl as Batgirl, to see what's taken away from her. I can understand from an artistic point of view. At the Comic-Con panel, though, Bruce Timm had to help. He got a little uncomfortable because I forget the guy's name, the guy that directed it. But the fans started saying some nasty stuff, booing him after they got a screening of it because they felt like Batman and Batgirl and showing them hook up was fan wank that they showed just to put it up there for no real reason.
My favorite comment out of that is one guy in the back. I forget his name, but he is cited. The directors were saying that Batgirl was in control of the situation. This isn't some schoolgirl pining over Batman. She's in control. To which someone in the audience yells, "Yeah, control her with that ass!" To which, I forget which director it was, he actually stood up and said in the middle of Comic-Con, "You want to say that again, pussy?"
Yeah, and then Bruce Timm got all uncomfortable because he didn't know what to make of the whole situation.
Do you think that she had sex with Batman just to have a baby and then get money from him?
No.
Yes. She wanted the
I'm just saying.
The whole,
Because
the
they had
early
a father-daughter
story of
relationship.
The Killing Joke.
Either she has daddy issues or she's trying to get some money from Batman.
There's a lot of girls have daddy issues.
Barbara does not have daddy issues.
No, not at
Jim
all.
Gordon's
Yeah,
a
but
good
her
father.
relationship with Batman was father-daughter.
Okay. There have been versions of the story, like in Justice League Unlimited, when they did Batman Beyond in the future. They did infer when she was talking to his son, the guy who becomes Batman Beyond. What the hell was his name?
There have been numerous times in
That
Batman
he
lore
hooked up
where
with Batman,
Barbara and Bruce have had a relationship.
Yeah,
Or, at the very least, a mutual attraction.
It depends on the era of the story. Since in many eras of the story, she was always with Nightwing, Dick Grayson, and Batman was like a father figure to both of them. But there are versions or iterations where she and Batman had a romance, or at least an attraction.
And
Or
that's
actually-
and that's one of the versions that take place in this. The thing is, people keep overshadowing this idea that they're so consumed with the fact that, oh my god, Batgirl and Batman had sex, they ignore everything else.
The dude has had sex with so many DC superheroines. There, it's almost like they're giving him a pass for doing for her doing something that Batman's like James Bond. He's slept with pretty much a lot of people. And
The whole early story had two facets to it. One was Batgirl continually trying to prove herself to Batman, that she is one of the best students he has ever had, and that she feels that he doesn't recognize that and doesn't trust her because there's a sociopathic mobster who has a sudden affection for her.
Well, not just that, but this version of the story that's causing a lot of controversy, not just the sex, is the fact that she became Batgirl just because she was in love with Batman, not because of her own
No,
reasons.
that's not it at all.
That's what they're taking out of it, though. That's
Well,
what
then they're
blowing
taking
out
it
of
wrong.
I agree. They're blowing it out of proportion. I haven't seen the actual movie, but I've seen a lot. They put most of the clips for the key points up on YouTube.
Watch
Well,
the
the
whole
film-
thing. It is a straight to DVD release. It costs $12. Watch it for yourself and then make a judgment.
I do know that the filmmakers did not mean to imply that the Joker raped her. I think what they were
I
trying
think
to
he
show
took pictures. I think
is that
you're right.
he took photos and to show the Commissioner Gordon just to get him all crazed up.
Right. Yep. And so, anyways, it's the things that fans will get upset about are always interesting.
They'll get upset about the stupidest shit.
I think the only logical point I can make as far as their reasons for being upset is that people were waiting to see the recreation of the Killing Joke story, but they added and took the liberty of throwing in 30 minutes worth of exposition to get people to invest in Batgirl, just for the sake of having a reason to be upset when she gets shot and paralyzed. So for that reason alone, I can kind of sympathize a little bit. I can understand why they were looking for a true adaptation of a classic story. They throw in an extra 30 minutes in the beginning
And they got one just with a prologue.
They didn't. Yeah, people should have more faith though that they don't need to do that. In the fans, that they know who Batgirl is. That if someone's watching this, they know who she is. They don't need.
It's more than just a preface to get you involved with Batgirl.
What about the people who don't know who Batgirl is?
It's a parallel to the Killing Joke with what they did. This mobster, Paris Franz was his name. He's a reflection of the Joker. He's a narcissistic sociopath who suddenly insanely unreasonably attracted to Batgirl and is trying to show off for her in the exact same way that the Joker does for Batman.
Interesting.
And they're completely missing that because, oh my god, they had sex.
Right. Because sex. Yep. Okay. Well, anyways, The Killing Joke was also released in theaters, and the animation was another complaint people had. I ragged on it at first, then I was watching clips. It's not as bad as I thought, but I don't think it was as good as they could have made it for...
It's a made-for video release feature.
Which they intended to release in the theaters, though.
For a one-night-only showing because it's The Killing Joke.
That's true. I just feel that DC's animation is really... They need to step it up, because, I mean, it just doesn't feel like...
They saved the good animation for TV.
Yeah.
The animation, it's similar great animation for Batman the Bad Blood and most of the Justice League releases.
Yeah, I just feel that for The Killing Joke, they should have known this was going to be one of the most anticipated adaptations, and they should have stepped up the animation. That's just my opinion. All right, so let's get on to the good stuff. Basically, and plus we're at the perfect point in the time of our show tonight to start this conversation. So for Star Trek fans, this is going to be the time, like when The Force Awakens came out for Star Wars, because Star Trek has been one of those things that needed a good breath of fresh air. And Star Trek Beyond not only came out, but Comic-Con announced Star Trek Discovery. They showed a little footage. Actually, before we even get into Beyond, since we're still kind of talking about Comic-Con, they did show a little teaser clip from and announced the new show.
Test footage.
Test footage. You're right. It's more like a concept art in digital form. And Brian Fuller released that, and it showed the new ship and the show being called Star Trek Discovery. Now, he did point out it's going to be a novel form type of storytelling, not episodic. So that should be interesting. And they haven't specified exactly when it takes place, but a lot of people are taking from information that's been sent out that it takes place between roughly the same time as Axanar, which is a slap in Alec Peters' face. Eat that. That it takes place between Enterprise and TOS. That seems to be the popular theory, although it's not 100% confirmed in words. And how did you guys feel about what you saw and what you heard about Discovery?
I didn't see it.
Well, as we're talking, I'm going to link you. You haven't seen the clip with the ship?
I saw the clip of the ship, and I'm like, what the F? I mean, even the original series, the ship looked good. This looks like something someone slapped together and called it a Starfleet ship.
A model
You
that's
know?
gone wrong.
Yeah, it does
Model he
not
bought from
fleet at all. Come to find out that they got this design from another series that never took
They got
off.
it from the concept art of the follow-on series to TOS that was never created.
So they took
the Planet of the
potential
Titans. So.
That's not actually accurate. It's for something called Titan. It was all the concept.
Planet of the Titans.
Because I'm going to blink the.
Which was the follow-on series to TOS that never got made.
Yeah, so when I saw that ship, I'm like, I am not going to watch this series because this looks like a prequel to right, and even the ship in Enterprise looked pretty cool, and then you got this little something that look like a 5-year-old put together.
Well, good thing that that's not the final design.
Thank God. I was hoping that this was just sort of like, you know how they always do. The original Discovery was this ship, but this is where we are today, and they just didn't show that part.
The test footage was rushed together in about 3 weeks for Comic-Con.
They need to stop rushing
something because they don't have anything to show yet.
Right. They need to stop rushing.
All right,
but the reason it was put together, not so much for the ship, but for the music. That was the composer's resume.
Yeah, the ship looks.
They just could have shown the Star Trek symbol with the music.
You know what it looks like?
And
it looks
then
like a cross between
in January 2017.
It looks like a cross between a Federation and a Romulan ship.
Right?
That's actually what everybody's saying. That design's been around, but you know what? I have to agree with Anthony. I'll tell you why. They should have known how the internet would react. Brian Fuller said he wanted to get something to show. He had 2 weeks to do it.
It looks goofy.
If you have 2 weeks to do it, why would you
Holy
rush
crap.
doing that? You know that people, because they're not just complaining about the look of the ship. They're complaining about how the CGI is worse than fan films, and that is true. But he should have known if you could have just talked about it. You don't have to show it.
Have you seen Of Gods and Men?
Well, okay, but most fan films, not that one. But Jesus, if you're gonna show the ship that everybody's been waiting to see, don't rush it into a quick little 3D thing.
Yeah, they could have just put the Delta symbol up there, right? That everybody recognizes it as Star Trek. Maybe put a lens flare in there with the music. If they wanted to portray the music, they could have done something like that instead of showing this piece of crap ship.
Seriously.
If you care, like most of us do, you actually do look into things and read interviews.
That's not fair at all. They shouldn't have to have people go, well, if you check back later. No, you don't do that.
Yeah, I shouldn't have to read into interviews.
This was in the blog post on StarTrek.com.
But, dude, no, you can't market.
Not everyone reads Star Trek.
People are going to keep checking into the details, that this isn't the final design, all that
It's
stuff.
also what they said at the panel where they released it.
But the general trailer that was released, this image, I mean, not trailer, but the first look, when people share it on their timeline, their feeds, and people click on it, they're not going to go, after seeing it and going, that ship looks bad, they're not going to go checking back, oh, there's more to it. Oh, it's not the final thing. Nobody's going to do that. Maybe the hardcore fans, but not the general audiences out there. That's not a good way to market it. Unless people, start sharing, this is the real version later on.
Yeah,
sure.
Not everyone is a Trekkie or a Trekker.
Yeah, that's the whole point with the JJ reboots is you don't assume everybody knows what's going on. That's not fair. The majority of people out there, the number of people who are not Trekkies way outnumbers the people that are Trekkies. So you have to market for everybody, not just for the Trekkies.
Well, I will say this. The one thing I don't like about the new title, Star Trek Discovery, the acronym.
Oh, yeah, STD.
STD. That's
yeah,
what
it's
it is.
Unfortunate.
Got an STD. Did you see STD? Did you get an STD?
I'm really looking forward to Brian Fuller's STD and sharing it with everybody.
I know, right? That's wow. They could. That's the acronym that people are making. Like Voyager's VOY and TNG is Next Generation. They could if the show creates a different hashtag or what the acronym is, it'll catch on, and they might catch on like an STD.
Well, the other acronym I could think of would be short for Discovery, DIS.
That's better than STD. Actually, yeah, I don't know. They're
Stick
gonna
with
have to do
STD. You might actually get somewhere with STD.
Yeah, they're gonna have to think about that one. Or at least they didn't think too forward.
Yeah, because everyone can get that,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, I can get an STD. Sure, no problem.
Subscribe to CBS All Access and get STD. Yeah, that sounds enticing.
Oh boy.
Anyways, yeah, so we have no details on the show itself, just that it's in novel form, and we get a first look at the ship. We're not 100% sure what time period, but we have some speculation that... Also, Brian Fuller tweeted out recently that he hinted that the captain might be a black female, which is fine. I mean, that's semantics. Well, it won't be semantics when the time comes. People go, oh, cool. But, or they won't. One or the other.
I can't see a black female flying that ugly-ass ship.
Token,
Just
your
saying.
thoughts?
She'd be like, hell
Just
no,
saying.
I ain't flying that. Give me another ship. I don't know. We'll see what happens when the time comes. I think it'd be nice if they had an alien captain for once instead of always being human just because they want to make a point. But, Starfleet does have captains that are non-human, but they're never the stars of the show.
Captain Vakel Shawn, Andorian captain of the Enterprise F.
Yeah, I know. That's Star Trek Online. But, it's a niche audience. No matter how much we love it, it's a niche. It's a sub-niche of something bigger, but it is a niche. If that was actually a TV show, they wouldn't have allowed that. But anyways, at least I don't think they would have. You never know nowadays. So, of course, the big reason most people will be tuning in for this episode is Star Trek Beyond review. Now, I'm going to do what we did with Civil War. I'm going to give everybody a chance to say what they liked about it, disliked about it, give it a rating.
Shall we do a spoiler warning first?
It is spoiler filled, yes. I'm going to put that on when we release it. We'll have it on the header too. That is spoilers review of Beyond. And by the time this episode airs, I mean, if most people should have seen it by now, but even more so when we actually air the episode. So yeah, spoiler filled. No, Will, I know you haven't seen it, but I promise you, there's no twists that are like the movie Seven, like we were talking about before the show started.
There is no I am Khan in this episode.
Yeah, there's no
in this movie.
reveals that are going to make you go, "Oh my god! I wish you guys hadn't told me that." So, like I said,
Well, I can't participate because I haven't seen it, so you're going to have to skip over me for that part.
We'll let you react to what you hear. How's that sound? Because then you can ask questions at a certain point if you're interested.
Sure, I get the whole movie and I won't have to go see it.
Well, no, because like I said, just because I knew everything before I even went into the movie.
Well, you're weird.
I am weird. I'm a geek. A super geek. Anyways, see what I did there? Anyways, I'm going to go around. I'll start. So what we'll do is we'll go around and everybody can just give their opinion, then rate it 1 out of 10, and then we'll do an open discussion. So why don't we start with you, Anthony? Tell us how you felt about the movie and then rate it.
Why do I have to go first?
Because you're at the top of the...
Because you're special.
You don't have to. I can go first if you want to.
Hey, go ahead.
All right.
Golly, just to answer the question.
All right. In my opinion, this is the best movie after The Wrath of Khan, because Wrath of Khan so far will always say number one to me, and unless they can top it, which they have not yet.
What about this is number 6?
Oh, it was better than that one, for sure.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
That's a
Yeah, it was definitely better than number 6.
Yeah. And basically, this is the truest Trek to film, even more than all the old TOS movies. The only reason I'm rating Wrath of Khan higher is because of the dramatic level. I mean, it's a different level. But as far as being true to Star Trek, being brought to the big screen, this movie shocked me. The trailers were good, but they made a lot of people worry this wasn't going to be anything but an action flick. Especially with Justin Lin being the director. Couldn't be anything further from the truth. This movie surprised everybody that watched it. It is not only has a message, but it has so many. It's not just callbacks to the original series, though there are a lot of them, and a lot of Easter eggs to Enterprise too, which was surprising.
Not to mention self-referential stuff.
But self-referential things, and it also felt like a bigger episode of TOS, but done a little bit better. One of the things I liked about this film was they acknowledged what's come before. Like they had Ambassador Spock die. Instead of just giving a nod to Leonard Nimoy, Spock finds out that Ambassador Spock dies, and then later on, and he's affected by it because he's broken up with Uhura, or she's broken up with him, and he's got all this stuff going on. And he finds out his other version of himself, which is like a mentor figure, died, and then at the end of the movie, he goes through his possessions and he finds a picture, which is from Undiscovered Country, of the whole cast. He sees himself older and all the other characters together on the bridge, and they have a picture from I believe it was Undiscovered Country of the whole cast, and it was
the cast photo from
Country. And it was like, can you imagine being Spock and seeing that? What could be, to see how they were all still friends as older people in that other timeline. That was deep, and it just goes. That was also a good nod to, as a tribute, because this was the 50th anniversary movie for Star Trek, and I thought it was very well done. And then they also showed. They joked about Kirk and his ripped shirts that he always gets on missions in the old show. How he's going through all the shirts that are ripped. That was cool. And that the crew's tired. They've been on the 3rd year of their 5-year mission, and that they're getting a little burnt out. Kirk knows every crew member's name on his ship. That was awesome. He's got to the point where he cares enough to get to know everybody. He doesn't, whether they're an ensign, whether they're crewmen, whether they're an officer. And everybody is in romance. There's different romances that have sparked up. They take in just a few minutes of a captain's log, and that's another thing too. They open with a captain's log. That was cool by itself. But it just the little moments, and then they go to that awesome space station, the Yorktown, which is like a big, as Bones put it, like a big snow globe waiting to burst open.
Yeah.
And they Sulu. That's when they throw in the controversial scene of Sulu's gay partner.
And it wasn't all that controversial.
They cut a scene with them kissing. I heard that I mean, whatever. But they wrapped their arms around each other and they had the little girl. Big deal. But
cute little Demora.
Demora, yeah. It didn't matter. I mean, Kirk and Spock and Uhura broke up for whatever. Oh, because he wanted to go help populate Vulcan, and she apparently didn't like that. Which, duh. Why would you? And so they all do their thing, and he's talking to Admiral. It turns out her name is Paris, nod to Voyager, possibly his ancestor. We don't know, but I don't think Simon Pegg wrote that name in there as a coincidence.
Great grandmother.
More than likely, yeah. And Kirk is up for promotion, which is a callback to Star Trek 2, and he's up for promotion to Vice Admiral. Now, some people are like, God damn, did they promote kids as Vice Admirals? I mean, what the hell? I go by the fact that his accomplishments, and I also think that the old Spock had a say in them being willing to look at him as a prodigy, like what he could be. That's my personal explanation of why they gave him so much responsibility so early, is because old Spock spoke up for what he could do later, like he did in his timeline. That makes sense to me, but I wish they had said something like that in the movies. And then we get to the threat now, and this is where things get interesting. Idris Elba's character Krall is a Mako. If you watch Enterprise, he was in the Romulan Wars and the Xindi Wars. The Makos apparently got their own ship, the Franklin, and
the Makos didn't get the ship.
They were that's
the Mako Corps was disbanded and folded into Starfleet. They became Starfleet officers. There were no more Makos.
I just saw it, and that's not what they said in the movie. They said they assimilated him into a Starfleet captain and his crew.
Scotty says the Makos were disbanded.
Right, after the war ended.
After the war ended, and they were folded into the Federation Starfleet.
During the war, the Makos had the Franklin as their ship, as Makos. That's what I meant. That's what I was trying to say. They were not under the command of other Starfleet officers. He didn't get the position after some Starfleet officer died or left. The Makos had the Franklin as their Mako ship, but they were Makos.
They were embarked on the Franklin. You're saying
right, but he was always the commander of the Franklin, regardless of whether he was a Mako officer or whether later he became a Starfleet officer. It's just that they were given the Franklin, and basically him and his crew had the equivalent of post-traumatic stress disorder, and they were just put out in the field, absorbed into Starfleet. They didn't, they were trying to, they were getting angry. He was getting angry at watching Starfleet make friends with former enemies like the Xindi, and making them feel like what they fought for was meaningless, in his opinion. And then they ended up getting apparently trapped or crashed on that planet, and Starfleet never came looking for them. And you saw logs of how they were getting, they abandoned us. And they found alien artifacts, and they were able to stay alive. by absorbing people's life forces, and this made him change his appearance to whatever race they were using the device on. That kept changing his appearance so that he became less human, not just spiritually but physically, and so they ended up
even lost the language.
Even lost the language, exactly. So then by the time Enterprise shows up, he's already got a trap plan through that alien chick, the cargo person or merchant.
That was one of his crewmates.
Oh, that's right. It was one of his crewmates that he had them go out there and do that. And the ship got destroyed in one of the longest scenes of the ship getting destroyed ever. But I will say...
And I gotta say... Go ahead, George.
I was just going to say that the whole scene with how Kirk stepped up in the heat of that moment, and everything the crew did to fight to the last man to do what they had to do, and they didn't even say abandon ship to the very last moment, but they tried like hell to prevent that from even being an option. And whether that was a good idea or not, whether they should have warped off sooner or not, they tried, and they didn't just give up. And it was just a great... This is where Justin Lin as a director comes in. The Fast and the Furious thing. They really made that into a pulse-pounding sequence.
It really was. And I gotta say, this... Every other time the Enterprise or the hero ship has been destroyed, it went out like a bitch.
Not this time.
Not this time.
I'm surprised the Warp Core didn't get Warp Core failure, the containment.
Well, that's what I mean by going out like a bitch. The ship gets hit a bunch of times, the hull gets damaged, the core blows up, ship blows up. This time... They are fighting, like George said, to the bitter end.
Oh, yeah.
The entire crew is working to save the ship. Even when they're being boarded, the nacelles are gone.
You're echoing.
Yeah, another mic is on. The nacelles are gone. They fire impulse, and they try to escape. Warp is gone, but they can still move. And they are fighting and fighting and fighting to the last possible moment until they're... And even then, hope isn't gone.
Nope.
But it is by far one of the best scenes.
To fight off the intruders, using the ship, using their brains, like what they did with the saucer separation and stuff like that.
Well, that was just straight survival.
Yeah, but still,
they couldn't maneuver the saucer with a piece of the neck still holding onto it.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
and Krull was freaking vicious through that entire fight. He was drawing it out for as long as he could. He wanted that ship to suffer.
Yep. And
I think he and Archer had a thing, maybe.
The other thing I liked was that once they get to the point where they do abandon ship and they go down to the planet, I like how each group of people step up and they show that they're truly experienced Starfleet officers at this point. They have their own way of handling the situation until someone of a higher authority comes in, like Kirk. They just like they did on the Next Generation and other shows. They are capable of doing their thing even if their captain's not there. And then they just are better together. But that's the message of this movie. We're better together. But they're still capable in smaller groups of working and doing things as Starfleet officers and getting stuff done. But once they all start to come together, they become stronger. And it shows that. It feels like that in the movie. Like the more people that start getting back together, the better their plans become, the better their actions become. And it just sort of... it echoes the whole theme of the movie. So for me, this movie, as far as Star Trek movies go, I'm going to say, and this isn't just because I'm reacting off the emotion, I know I'm going to say this 10 months from now, it's 9 out of 10. Absolutely. Khan is a 10. This is 9 out of 10. So, what did you think, Anthony? Ooh, Anthony.
He's not there.
All right, we'll go to you then, Ross.
All right, I've talked about the destruction of the Enterprise and how I feel about that. The visuals in this movie are absolutely amazing. I was in love with the approach and docking at Yorktown. How you see the ship go into this huge spherical base with twisting arms that are practically cities unto themselves. And the Enterprise is gliding through these tunnels with water surrounding it, so you can see the ship passing under this pane of water.
And the Admiral did say it was millions of life forms on there.
then turn around and it's time for them to leave, and they get shot out like a bullet.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
With the camera at a really wide field of view, almost fisheye, perched right on top of the deflector dish.
That was pretty cool.
That was amazing. The overall story, I gotta say, I like Kirk's monologue at the beginning. Starting with a captain's log, nice to see that again. But I gotta say, his feelings on an extended mission like that, that's spot on.
Yeah, you would know, right? Because you were in the Navy.
Yeah, thankfully, none of my deployments have ever been 5 years. We would have killed everybody by then.
Yeah, and it was a little different too because they had male and female cohabitation and so forth.
Yeah, but I can tell you, after a few months, that one day just folds into the next, like you're replaying Groundhog Day over and over and over again, which sometimes we did.
So you felt like you could relate?
I could. I absolutely understand what Kirk's feeling. It was a little jarring when he was asking for the vice admiral position at Yorktown. Krall as a villain was, I thought, pretty engaging. Star Trek for me has always been at its best when it is self-reflective. Be it one of the many instances where Kirk and company had to face off against a rogue commodore or admiral. But in this case, where a relic of the past, a
soldier,
a piece of a bygone era where Earth only knew conflict, where they had gone from the Xindi conflict and rolled right into the Romulan War. That is a very dark and terrible time for the fledgling United Earth, but it is what gave birth to the Federation.
Right.
And Krall was unable to move past that.
Right, and we all knew that this is where they were going if Enterprise had continued.
Yeah, and I really like that. I really like that reflection of resistance to change. And Kirk and his crew's overcoming of that. Jayla was awesome.
I forgot to mention her, yes. Great.
She is the new the white and black striped alien that appears, who's really kick-ass and instantly bonds with Scotty and kind of grounds the crew in this savage planet that they're stranded on.
Amazing character. Probably the best.
And they don't linger too long on her origins. She's there. She's a force to be reckoned with. She needs some encouragement, but in the end, she's an asset to the crew that integrates well.
She better come back too, as a crew member, because they set that up.
I'm looking forward to seeing what she does in the IDW comic series. I'm a follower of that.
Yeah,
the Franklin, I really enjoyed. I liked the design of her. I liked how she fit inside, and I loved seeing her in action.
Justin Lin, here's a little trivia. The name Franklin is actually, if you split it, it's Justin Lin's father, Frank Lin.
Yeah. And a lot of people give crap about it, but I am absolutely okay with the Beastie Boys being in this Star Trek.
In context, it worked, and so did the motorcycle.
It worked perfectly.
Well, and the motorcycle.
It was so awesome.
The way that they did the motorcycle, because in the trailers, it's like, oh yeah, they just happen to have a motorcycle, and they're doing. But if you actually watch the movie in context, and in the relation to Kirk's as a kid in the first movie, it all makes sense. It all works.
And the irony of it is, the story irony is that motorcycle and the Franklin were originally Krall's. So Kirk is using Krall's own discarded equipment against him.
Simon Pegg really needs to be involved in the next movie, because number 4 is supposed to be about Kirk meeting his father through a time travel.
Supposedly. This is J.J. Abrams we're talking about.
Confirmed. It's just the details, how much they're changing.
Keep in mind who's putting out the information. He's the one who said there was no Khan, remember?
Well, what they said was they took a script that Robert Orci wrote that was rejected, that involved Kirk meeting his father through a time travel thing, and they're going to use it for the next one. And it makes sense because of the theme, the undertone of the whole series has been Kirk not knowing his dad. So it kind of actually thematically makes sense. So I think it would be a good idea.
That's another thing I liked. There was a theme. Kirk's unease was brought about by his birthday. How he is now older than his father was when he died.
Right. That his birthday was his dad's death day.
And that's a nice callback to original Kirk as well, who didn't like the idea of getting older and being unable to do what he used to do.
That's true.
Well,
Except
at
now
least
he's
he
got
didn't get
additional
glasses
motivation.
for his birthday. And
Yeah. And he actually drinks with McCoy in the ship's bar, and probably one of the funniest moments in the movie where McCoy pulls out a bottle of scotch and says, "I got this from Chekhov."
Yeah, and then he uses that modern term. I know, right? Everybody's talking about that. He says,
Really,
I
I figured him for a vodka kid.
Well, no, it's not just
exactly.
I can't remember the term that people use when you use a modern term in a non-modern setting, but that one part
Anachronism?
No, it's a different term. I forget. It's when I was writers do it by mistake a lot. They use a modern phrase. When someone says "I know, right?" That's people don't realize that's recent. That's
an idiom.
An idiom. People have only been saying that for a few years. But when it's being said, like say it was an 1800s movie, if somebody said "I know, right?" it would be totally out of place. But in this movie, obviously, it's a catchphrase that could have, returned. It's
an idiom.
Idiom.
And we don't know what idioms are going to be like in the future. Maybe things come back.
They do often, like groovy or right on. Everybody's saying right on over where you are right now, and that was the '60s thing. Just saying, an example.
Anyway, overall, I really, really enjoyed Beyond. I'd rate it in my top 5.
No, I mean 1 out of 10.
I don't do numbered ratings. Here's what I'll say. It was well worth the cost of admission, and well worth the cost of repeated admission. I'm definitely going to go see it in theaters again, probably several times before it comes to DVD.
Well, I know you don't do unnumbered things, but we said earlier we're doing 1 to 10, and you're spitting in that. If you had to.
No.
You refuse to? Okay.
I'm saying I'm going to go see it in a theater multiple times. That should tell you how I rate it.
All right. Anthony.
Yes.
What did you think of the movie?
I thought it was excellent. Yeah, to me, it was a really good movie. I'm not going to regurgitate what both of you guys have already said.
Just tell us how you feel.
But, I fell in love with Jayla. I thought she was awesome in the movie. I loved that at the end of the movie she was rewarded with admission into Starfleet.
Yep.
At the Academy. I thought that was awesome. I loved how the crew, although divided after the crash, and they were all on the planet, got together and did what they could to bring everybody back together. I thought that was amazing when they found the Franklin and it was Jayla's house. She's like, it's my house, and it's a starship.
She liked the yelling and everything.
Yeah, it was Public Enemy. Fight the Power.
I like the beats and the yelling.
Yeah, see, she didn't even know it was called music, but she loved it. She was playing that. I loved it when they played the Beastie Boys, and Kirk is sitting there with a little smirk on his face. He's like, "Good choice." A total flashback to the first movie when he was a kid and he was driving his stepdad's car.
Self-reference.
Yeah, so that was awesome. But I did like the fight scene with the swarm. I mean, how do you defend against that? That swarm tore that ship up. But those guys fought tooth and nail to keep that ship going. And when they lost the warp nacelles, they were able to reroute power, get everything going, and get the boosters up. And then all of a sudden, that got shot. I'm like, man, they can't catch a break. But, in the end, they figured out... I love the fact that they figured out how to defeat the enemy. They realized who the enemy originally was, which was amazing to me. Yep. And how he disguised himself as his near original form. And no one recognized him, but Kirk and crew did. So I like that. I like the... and also, the scene where Kirk had the black eye, that was a real black eye. Idris Elba gave him a black eye during the fight scene, so they
really?
used it.
Ah.
Yeah, so
I was
that
going to
was
say, they have the technology to get rid of the black eye. Why didn't
nope,
they
but
leave
that was a real black eye, and they used it.
it happens a lot in the Rocky movies.
Oh yeah, so I thought it was a great movie. I rate it right behind The Wrath of Khan as my number 2 movie out of a rating of 1 in 10.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? I give it a solid 8.9. So yeah, I give it it was a real good movie. I saw it in 3D.
Did you? I'm going to go see it again.
So did I.
I'm seeing it for the second time this weekend.
I do have to say that I always love, her name is Shora Agdashlu, and she's the one that played Commodore Paris. I love her voice.
Yes.
That voice is iconic.
Do you think she's related? I believe that Simon Pegg wrote her in there, that name. As
It's all speculation, but it could
Right.
be. You got to remember, she was a Commodore, so there was a time of war, right? And she was offering Kirk a vice admiral position,
weren't
which is
in war.
higher than her. No, Commodores are always used in a time of war.
It's
Not in
Star Trek.
TOS.
Not in Star Trek. It's different.
Okay, well, from what I know of war, Commodores are
Right, but
used in
Star
that
Trek, they
time.
used to have
But
Commodores all the
anyway,
time.
the fact of the matter is this. I loved her voice. I loved her. She may be the ancestor of Tom Paris.
Yeah.
You got to remember, Tom Paris's dad was an admiral in Starfleet.
Right.
The Paris name is a legacy, just like
Yeah.
Decker.
Exactly.
Yep.
So maybe that's a link to Voyager.
I think it was
But
Simon Pegg.
anyway, my feeling of the movie, it was great. I love the action. Even if I wasn't a Star Trek fan, I would love that movie.
I hear that a lot from people, that they brought
Yeah,
people who weren't
very,
Star Trek
very
fans.
good.
I took my
J-Lo was
girlfriend
easy.
to
J-Lo was easy to love. She was
yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
I took my girlfriend to a marathon showing of it. She had never seen the 3 new Treks, and she told me afterwards that she wasn't a fan of the talky geek fest that typical Star Trek can be, but she loved these 3 movies, especially the new one.
That's awesome.
I think this, from what I keep hearing, the hate for the JJ universe or Kelvin timeline has really, this movie won a lot of the okay, Star Trek: The Next Generation, the best of both worlds. When people were on the fence about whether TNG was a worthy successor to the original series, Star Trek: The Best of Both Worlds season finale for season 3 with the Borg, that's considered to this day to be the episode that won the old fans over for TNG. I think this is doing the same thing for the Kelvin universe as far as the movies go.
It's not just the movie itself. The marketing for this movie was on point.
Good point. Yep.
I mean, look at what they did for Into
Rihanna.
Darkness. There was a huge multi-million-dollar marketing campaign with little voice snippets about John Harrison plotting against the individual crew members of the Enterprise, a huge elaborate websites with mysteries woven in all over the place, and it turned out that the twist was something everyone had guessed already.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, did you guys catch when everyone was abandoning ship, Scotty was in a missile?
He was in a photon torpedo.
Yeah, he was in a
Thank you for
torpedo.
reminding me of
That's a flashback to the Khan movie. When his people were in those missiles.
Well, I thought it was a clever way for him to, if he couldn't get to an escape pod, he shot himself out of a photon torpedo.
Speaking of, did you guys catch what they called the escape pods?
No.
Kelvin pods.
No, I didn't catch
Interesting, I didn't catch that.
The Kelvin did not have escape pods. They got out via shuttlecraft.
that. Wow.
And note, there weren't any escape pods in Into Darkness either. Everyone was going to the shuttle bay.
Interesting. As far as the Kelvin timeline, Simon Pegg said in an interview that that the ripples of time that change when the Kelvin was affected by Nero go both ways. So it's not just from that point forward, that it goes further back, and so they can play with this as an alternate universe, and they have some exposition for that without worrying about getting into the nitty gritty. But I gotta say, because all things considered, they spent a lot of attention to detail on the whole Franklin, because the time period that Kroll came from is an area that was left vague that happened after Enterprise, but we never really got to see happen. And I thought it was cool how they went into a lot more detail about that. This is why I think Discovery takes place in this time period after that. It's because they were really focusing on not just Krall's origin, but that period of time in Trek history. It was almost like they were trying to get everybody interested in it enough to promote what could be happening on the new show. But I could be wrong, because it is Paramount versus CBS.
I gotta say, I like the many references to Enterprise. It legitimizes that series a lot more for me. From using the original style of uniform in the video recaps.
But it was nice. They were good uniforms. Did you notice that Kirk, when he was wearing that jumpsuit on the station, that was a callback to me of Deep Space Nine, because whenever Picard, when they first introduced the new uniforms for Deep Space Nine, sometimes and this happened in Generations, whenever like the crew would go to Deep Space Nine, they would suddenly switch over to wearing their jumpsuits, almost like this is the uniform you wear on a space station, or versus the whole Riker Tug shirt thing that they wore on TNG.
Well, there were a lot of different uniforms in this movie.
Yeah, I like the jackets.
But I'm talking about the jumpsuits. Oh, the jackets were awesome. But the jumpsuits on that space station, what it reminded me of is that that was the station's uniform. Because if you were near the end, when they were beaming over to tell them how to stop the swarm or to help them, and the commander was the guy that J.J. Abrams is friends with, who was in The Force Awakens as one of the X-Wing pilots. I forget his name.
Yeah, Steve Grunberg.
Yeah. But he was the commander of the station. But their uniforms on that ops station were the jumpsuits Kirk wore when he was talking to that admiral, or Commodore, I'm sorry, and they were jumpsuits. Now, to me, it was like saying, stations seem to have jumpsuits for your uniforms, and then, and the ships have the different uniforms. Because they, and then Kirk was wearing one of those when he was talking to her, almost like he was conforming.
It could be more of a different style of uniform. Current, right. As an example, current military have different uniforms for different settings. You've got your working uniforms, your dirty uniforms, your service uniforms, and your dress uniforms.
Right.
Those could be more of a service uniform for fixed installation.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And if you're going to meet the admiral, you want to be in uniform of the day.
Right. I like the uniforms that they used. They were similar to the one that Krall in those videos that they were watching. They were similar to the logs. They were sort of similar to the uniforms his crew wore, but a little bit different. Because Spock wore one of his jumpsuits from the Franklin, but they weren't exactly the same. They were supposed to be obviously Mako uniforms anyways, but they weren't exactly the same as what we've seen.
They were early Starfleet uniforms. They were not Mako uniforms.
Oh, that's right, because before they crashed, they had become Starfleet. That's right.
Right. And that was Krall's whole argument. He'd spent his life as a soldier, and then once the wars were over, he was thrust into the role of an explorer, and he wasn't suited for it.
And some people have suggested that the message there is how we treat our veterans when they come back, is throw them back out, or do we make sure they're okay first? Obviously, he wasn't okay. So that could be one of the messages. The other message I keep hearing about is people are comparing this to talking about extremism, like with the terrorists. Like, if you cling too much to the way things were, you can't change when everybody's trying to unify.
Well, that's something that Kirk told Krall, that if you keep fighting the wars of the past, you'll never find peace.
But a lot of people are saying that the message from that is like the extremists, like Muslims in general, are fine with the world getting United Nations and everybody, but the extremists are the ones that are like Krall. They're the ones saying, no, we don't want to unify with the rest of the world. We're better off on our own. So that's what... I'm just saying that's what a lot of people are saying that they're taking as a message in relation to today's world. I don't know if you guys agree with that or not, but...
I just love the movie. It was really good.
As do I.
I'll ask you both a quick question. If you had some Star Trek person who's reluctant to see this movie, and because they've been turned off by all the other movies or whatnot, if they were to ask you to tell them why they should see it as far as Star Trek messages go, and tell them why it's not just all action like what the trailers say, what would you tell them?
I would tell them it's like it's an episode of the original series with a Hollywood movie budget.
And what about you, Anthony?
I would just tell them it's not like the other movies, and the reason why is that we now get to see the crew gelled together,
Yes.
working together, and overcoming an enemy that seems near impossible.
A Kirk that's actually in command.
He's earned it instead of just been thrust into it.
No, it's not that. His attitude, the way he speaks to people. He is the captain. He feels like he is the captain. He isn't trying to prove anything to anyone anymore.
He's naturally wormed his way into the role. Not wormed. He's just naturally become the captain.
Well, when he was reflecting on his birthday, he still has things to prove to himself.
Yeah.
He started Starfleet on a dare, and he's convincing him. He has to convince himself that now he's in Starfleet and he has to live up to a certain standard.
But he's not reckless about it anymore.
Right.
He's grown up
He's growing up. After 3 years in space, it changes you.
Not just that, he was given a position of authority, and there are people who can relate to that. Like, for example, if a father leaves the family, sometimes the youngest son will step up to try to be the father and help the mom out with the other kids. Sort of like that, you know what I mean? It's just an analogy.
Right.
All right. Well, that's an interesting. All I'm gonna say is everybody should go see this if you haven't seen it already. Even though we spoiled a lot, I think you'll still enjoy the film if you haven't seen it yet.
Honestly, the stuff we've mentioned, you could see the movie and still be surprised.
Exactly. Experience.
Oh yeah. We didn't
it.
talk about a lot of stuff. There's still a lot to see.
There's a lot of little things. And Jayla, I didn't say enough about her.
Right, and I'm not going to say a lot. I want people to attach themselves to her like I did, in their own way.
Yeah,
you know?
You're right.
Yeah.
It was one of those things that just happens, and if it happens, it happens. But I think it will. All right. Well, guys, there's so much we could say about this movie, but I think that we pretty much summarized what needs to be said about this. Will had to step out early, but I'm going to wrap up the show because I know Anthony has to get going. But all right, so that concludes episode 24 of Super Geeks. We hope you enjoyed the show. You can find us on Subspace Radios on Thursdays, and we air this show every week. So we will talk to you next time.
You'll also find it on www.iliveloveplay.com.
Jayla can be Batman.
Oh, hell yeah.
I think she could. All right, you guys.
That freeze mist? Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, we won't even spoil some of the tricks she has up her sleeves. That leaves some surprises. Her
Go see the movie, people.
Go see it.
It's worth it.